News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Well, Supreme Court has officially denied the Attorney General's Ken Paxton's request to block the state fair from its gun ban. So as of today, when you went, if you went, you were not allowed to carry a concealed carry a firearm with even if you have a concealed carry permit for the first time ever that I'm aware of, ever. And I've been going to that state fair on and off for 15 years since I've moved here in North Texas. And this is a genuine anger. It angers me. And it's an embarrassment to us as a state because this is the State Fair of California, not the State Fair of Texas. It literally is, and it's this state is all about lawful gun carrying and everything, using it and carrying it and being responsible with it. A thug, why did they even do this? Because a thug showed up last year illegally. He did not have a concealed carry permit. He was not lawfully carrying. He illegally had a gun on him and pulled it out and shot at some person in the food court who I guess he knew or whatever, I don't know what, had some tussle with. And so because a thug showed up, they decided to take away our guns. So what does that mean? We're the thugs. Do you understand that? You and I are the thugs. In the eyes of the State Fair of Texas, you and I are the thugs. Now, if you have a concealed carry permit, the state of Texas statistics show that you're 12 times less likely to commit a crime. So they are kicking out us. We are the thugs, even though we're 12 times less likely to commit a crime. And they're letting the thugs come in. And they claim to have hired more rent-a-cops. Wow. A rent-a-cop's going to run towards the threat, huh? We just heard about how 600,000 illegal alien convicted criminals, murderers, and rapists are walking our streets. A lot of them are in Texas because of Joe and Kamala. And a lot of terrorists interdicted at the border, and including ones there's 2.2 million gotaways. Many of them are terrorists, probably. And is this the year to show up at this state fair and do something? I pray to God not anywhere. But you are not safe if you don't have a concealed carry because, in my opinion, because cops can't be everywhere. And this is a 277 acre fair park. Do you think do they have the Iron Dome guarding it, shooting you if you pull out a gun? No. A thug pulled one out in the middle of the food court last year and didn't get shot or stopped. So what does that tell you? That tells you are not safe and that you can't carry anymore. So you're really not safe, in my opinion. Yeah, this angers me. The more I talk about it, it angers me. But so it's over. They're banning guns from us. We're the thugs. The thugs are cool. Are you less likely to go now or more likely to go to the state fair? Do you think the state fair will be safer because of this? And are we the threat or the thugs? Will this stop a thug from bringing a gun in, do you think? Do you trust the security guard to run towards the threat? And I got one more thing to add. Our number is 800-288-9227. Lines wide open. 800-288-WBAP. Chime in right now. 800-288-9227. Man, we got 5 minutes to take your call, so we're open. I wanted to tell you something else. A vendor who is a T-shirt vendor in Plano. It's Quick Draw Shirts. And the owner is Kevin Simmons, and he is currently, as we speak, at the state. He's at the. Let me see here. He's hitting all these fairs. He's at the one in Tulsa right now, Tulsa State Fair. He's there right now. He's going to talk to us tonight in the 10 o'clock hour from the Tulsa State Fair. He says the State Fair of Texas denied him entry as a vendor because, quote, I'm going to read you the what he said to me today. He reached out to me, and he will be on the show tonight. He said that the director of exhibits told him on the phone, I don't want to offend anybody with guns on shirts. His logo as Quick Draw Shirts out of Plano, and I'll even tweet the logo right now. You can see it for yourself. Quick Draw Shirts. Okay, it'll come right up now, and I'll tweet it out because, yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. You'll see all of his shirts and everything because he was denied, and I'm gonna share with you. I'll tweet out when we hit the break, but I'm gonna share with you what he said tonight. He'll come on tonight to explain from the Tulsa State Fair. He goes to all these state fairs: Tulsa, West Idaho, Oklahoma City, Arkansas, Louisiana. And he's had that same logo. It's a fun gun logo with a person holding guns on it in a fun way. And they denied it because, quote, he says, on the phone, a woman named Kelly Pound, who is the director of exhibits, told him, I don't want to offend anyone with guns on shirts. While in an email, the answer was, but right now we're not in the market for another T-shirt booth. Next year, if you're still interested, you might apply for a novelty booth, Midway type. Now, that's what he claims. I have reached out to the State Fair of Texas. I called and talked to their public relations offices today, and I also emailed them, both the head of the public relations for the State Fair of Texas and their main office, and a second person, and through our contacts that we have here through WBAP, and I've had no reply. I understand it's the first day and they're busy, but this is a question that's been directly alleged by a vendor, and I want you to be able to decide, and I want to tell you about this, and you will be able to judge. He gives the name of the lady he talked to and what she said. So they have not responded yet, and I've also invited them to come on the show if they want to respond too. Okay, that's it. Let's go to your phone call. Can you believe that, though? How do you feel also about a T-shirt vendor allegedly being turned down because he's got guns on his logo at the State Fair of Texas? Can you believe this? I mean, put your cojones on the table and get ready to get chopped off like Barack Obama handed them to somebody. This is the State Fair of California. Randy in Dayton, WBAP. Hello.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. If they're not going to allow people to carry their weapons, then they need to do a pat down. If they're really concerned about people's safety, they need to do a pat down, because the bad guy's always going to have a weapon.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And they would have to pat down everybody. And I will tell you that we tweeted out this list. We have and it's also on my Facebook. But I'd say we tweeted out this list. I'm going to have to pull it up here in a second. But it tells you the name of many of these officers that will be patting you down at every single entrance here. It takes me a second to scroll down. I want to read these to you and see if any of these sound familiar with any of your local law enforcement that have maybe been recruited. Let me see here 1 second. By the way, does this feel like the State Fair of California to you now?
What's that?
By the way, does this feel like the State Fair of California to you?
I've been there before, so I never. Of course, you couldn't carry a weapon when I was there.
Oh, you can. You could. You always could as a concealed carry. Yes.
Oh, okay. So
yeah. So do you feel like this is the State Fair of California now?
No. I don't think they're doing the right thing.
Okay, but it's not like they have in California your state fair, you don't think?
Like I said, I never knew you could carry a weapon.
All right. Well, listen. But do you think it should be wrong that people like me, licensed carrier holders with a current active license to carry, that we should be disallowed?
No, absolutely not. You should be allowed, period.
Okay, and then here's some of the...
You're going to end up being the good guy. If something breaks out, you're going to be the good guy to protect everybody else.
Not anymore. Now you got to run and pray you don't get hit. So the State Fair of Texas has banned concealed carry. I'm going to show the name. I appreciate your call, Randy from Dayton. I'm going to show the names of all these officers. Or I'll share them right now. Our number, by the way, is 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. We have Officer Sean Diddy Combs will be frisking you. We have Officer John Gropia. We have Officer Philip McCrevis. We have Officer Pat McCheeks. We have Officer Ben Dover. We have Officer Pat McCrotch. And we also have Officer Fonda Balls. Those are the officers that we are aware of right now that will be up there patting you down at all the entrances to the 2.3 million people. That's a lot of pat downs, but I'm sure Officer Fonda Balls and Officer Philip McCrevis will be happy to help you, along with Officer John Gropia and Pat McCheeks. Okay, and Officer Bendover is quite a prolific patter downer, so don't worry, you'll be fine. Watch out for Officer Fondaballs. I'll just leave it at that, guys. I had a bad experience with him once. They're all former TSA guys. Watch out, okay? And if you're a grandma, you're going to get frisked the worst. Really, be prepared to file complaints. Bring your cameras to get this on video with your phones, because I think it's going to be a little rough, guys. Watch out, and I hope they don't rough up your suspect. All right, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, we're going to tell you what we're going to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you want to add more names on the offices, you can. I also have the Quick Draw shirts, and we'll chime in again. And then guess what? We got a Rolling Stones legend, 40-year keyboardist and friend of the show, Chuck Leavell. And he just got off the tour with the Stones. He's played with Pink Floyd on their last tour. He actually sang as Roger Waters at Pink Floyd Live in Pompeii for the whole series in Europe. It was incredible. I spent some good time with him, talking to him about the Stones and his work with Clapton and Pink Floyd, and so much more. It's really an incredible privilege to have him on the show every couple of years. All right, that's coming up as well on the Chris Crock Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. I am going to tweet out this. I'm just going to tweet the logo right now. I just didn't get a message for you to put on there, but I just tweeted out the logo to Quick Draw shirts. What's actually really cool is you can see the logo, and it's I can explain it to you. It's a guy. It's no one's got a head on it. It's a shirt, and it's got a hand with two guns on the side coming out on the side. Not so it's like a Sam. What's his name? What's the character? Not the Disney guy, but the one at Six Flags. You know what I mean? Something Sam. Yeah, is it Yosemite? Who's the one with the big mustache and he's shooting? Yeah, is that Yosemite Sam? Okay. Yeah, it's like Yosemite Sam, the way he holds the guns up at you. And but it's a human, but there's no head on it. No, it's just a shirt. Anyways, that's their logo, and he asked to be let into the State Fair as a vendor. And he says the lady in charge of vendors told him, and he gave me her name and such. She's the director of exhibits, and on the phone she said, "I don't want to offend anyone with guns on shirts." And in an email it said, "Right now we're not in the market for another T-shirt booth. Next year, if you're interested, you might apply for a novelty booth, Midway type." Okay, and that is a guy named Kevin Simons. He owns Quick Draw shirts in Plano, so you can see his logo. I just tweeted it out, and I'll add to what he says on there, and you can judge for yourself. I reached out to the State Fair. They won't comment as of right now. They haven't commented yet, I should say, and I offered them to come on. I'm sure they're busy, but they haven't replied yet. So anyways, man, how would you feel about that? How do you feel about a T-shirt vendor allegedly being turned down because he's got guns on his logo? You tie that in with the fact that guns, concealed carry, is now banned for the first time ever that I'm aware of in the history of the State Fair of Texas. If you have a concealed carry license, you were allowed last year. I had mine every year, and all of a sudden now, nope. All because of a thug shooting up the lunch. What do you call it? The lunch, not the lunch, but the kitchen. No, what's it called? The food court. My gosh, what's wrong with me? I'm getting old. The food court. So a thug shows up there legally having a gun on him, and they take away our guns. So to me, it is not the State Fair of Texas. To me, it is the State Fair of California. How about you? Are you less likely to go now or more likely to go? And do you think the State Fair is going to be safer because of this? And are we I think it's going to be less safe because of this. And are we the threat or the thugs? Will this stop a thug from bringing in a gun? Do you trust a security guard to run towards the threat like a cop would? No. And they're like, oh, we have a good law enforcement. We've hired a lot of security guards, rent-a-cops. You have 277-acre fair park to cover, and you're saying we can't bring guns, and somehow you're going to have 1 million cops everywhere? Dude, cops, there aren't even, we don't even have, we're like 1,000 or 1,500 officers short for Dallas. There's not enough cops anywhere. anymore, unfortunately, because the way they were mistreated by the BLM Marxists, worshiping St. George Floyd. Blessed be his name. So anyway, no, we're not less safe, and we are less safe, and I think this is State Fair of California. They have California our Texas. And this really does bother me, especially because the name Texas is in there. So they're not, and while they're on city land, which is why they're not allowed to take away people's guns on City of Dallas land, it's because it's being leased by the State Fair that they... And I got to tell you, to me, this has been a horrible public relations disaster for them. Because if you've turned off a lot of people by doing this, I think the only person you've appeased are liberals, liberal North Texans, liberal Texans, and out-of-state people who are against guns. This is embarrassing and it's humiliating to I think to the state and to the State Fair for what they're doing, and they're proud of it. And they're like, "Oh, we're glad. We feel people are being more safe now." Here was the comment after they won in the Supreme Court. I think it was humiliating to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court like this for them. Because it kept it in the news for a week that they don't like guns. They don't like legal people with guns, permit holders. Hey, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, a rare treat. We don't have time to put this guy on, though, do we? Or do we? Okay, Ron in Bulk Springs, you got 20 seconds. Go, brother.
Okay, it was at Six Flags about 3 years ago. I was waiting for the kids. They were in the runaway mine train, and all of a sudden, we're on a bench outside, I am, and people are running down the walkway. I mean, they're falling and tripping and peeling off left and right to go hide behind something, and snag one of the people running by and goes, "What's going on?" There's an active shooter. Okay, so the next thing I know, employees are herding us into the runaway mine train, and got 30 or 40 people in there, and then they close the door. And then some of the men were in there going, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And one guy, whoever it is, comes through the door. One of the guys says, "Well, we're powering." And that made me mad because I said, "You know what? I got a license to carry, but I couldn't come in this place."
That's right.
And we wouldn't be freaking out like this.
That's exactly right.
I'd be over there beside a car ready to shoot that guy.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No more at the State Fair of Texas. You are not safe, and that's whether you can carry or not. It's a terrorist target, places like that. Now you're not safe. Bless you, brother. All right, coming up next, Chuck Leavell, 40-year veteran Rolling Stones keyboardist, played with Clapton, Pink Floyd, and so many others. We just checked in with him after the tour. Can't wait to do this with you. Enjoy. Stand by. We're going to get into that next. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It is a rare treat to get Chuck Leavell on the show. Have had the privilege of having him on for years now, and it's been amazing to follow him and to be able to visit with him from time to time. And Chuck Leavell, Rolling Stones keyboardist and musician, keyboardist extraordinaire, and tree man, which we'll get into. Welcome back to the show, man. Welcome back.
Hey, Chris, my friend, how are you? It's wonderful to be with you. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It sure has. Last time we talked, you were in Tampa doing a sound check for the last tour. And
Yep.
Yeah, and then, so tell me what's going on. I mean, it's kind of easy, but to just, too broad. But tell me this, how was the tour, first of all?
Well, it was just extraordinary. I think we wound up doing 20 shows, which in the scheme of things for us these days is sort of a long tour. The paradigm had been more like 14 or 15. So this was cool, to extend it a little bit. It was just extraordinary, man. It's hard to understand how we can still be doing this. And I've got to, of course, talk a little bit about Charlie. Of course, we still miss Charlie very much, but Charlie Watts would never want to be the reason this band would stop. And Steve Jordan is a fantastic musician.
Yes.
And he had Charlie's blessing, So we're proceeding on as Charlie would want us to. And I think, it's just a feeling of wow, they still want us to do this. They still want
Yes.
to come. We better be at the top of our game. And, that hopefully we are.
I got to see you in Chicago this time, my hometown. I know that Mick and the boys love Chicago. It seems like it's one of their most favorite places to go in the States. We saw you in Soldier Field, 2 shows that looked sold out to me. And I was with my parents that are Mick's age. And, they're not as bright as he is. But it was an amazing show. Tons of verve, vigor, and incredible performance. Now, I swear, I've been watching every tour for years. Not one beat skipped. How is that possible?
I don't know. I think it's so embedded in our DNA now, and we've had, again, with the exception of Steve, replacing Charlie at this juncture, the rest of us have been together for a long, long time now. It's been 42 years for me. Daryl Jones has been there since 94.
Bassist, yep.
Yeah, and Tim Reese and Carl Denson, and of course Bernard Fowler, and now Chanel Haynes. Chanel is kind of new for us, but boy, did she really knock it out.
She was amazing, absolutely. Chuck, what's your best memory of from this tour, and what's your best memory of all with all your 40 years with the Stones?
Oh, man.
It's going to be hard.
Well, no, you mentioned Chicago. It is a special city for this band. We all revere the music that came out of Chicago, the Chicago blues, of course. Artists like Howlin' Wolf and Lightning Hopkins, Muddy Waters, and others. So that's certainly a very important city for us, and the fact that we were able to double up and do 2 shows there was great. But I got to also mention the last show that we did, which was in the Ozarks.
Yes, in Missouri. That was incredible. Yeah, tell me about that.
And well, Johnny Morris is a good friend of mine. Johnny Morris is the founder and CEO of Bass Pro Shop.
Yes.
I'm sure most of your audience know what Bass Pro, and they also run Cabela's now. They both Cabela's and Bass Pro. Johnny's one of the sweetest guys on the planet, I assure you. He's a real, genuine human being. He cares about people. He runs a great company. He loves the outdoors. He's a great environmentalist and conservationist. And he called me up before the tour started, and he said, Chuck, I just want you to know that I've built a new amphitheater in the Ozarks, and it would be my dream to have the Stones play it. And I said, well, Johnny, I don't know if it's possible or not, but I can put you in touch. And I did. And, without going through the ups and downs, the bottom line is that it did work out, and we were able to do it. And what a cool way to finish a tour, in a venue like that. I mean, it was the only thing of its size or nature that we did for the whole tour. Everything was stadiums except for this one show, and it was really a cool way to end the tour.
Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for 40 years with the Rolling Stones and the music director. How have you been lately? I mean, you just wrapped up a Stones tour. Are there more projects coming up for you personally? Because you've worked with Chuck, you've worked with David Gilmour, which we'll get into in a little bit, with Pink Floyd, Eric Clapton, George Harrison, and so many more. So how's it been lately? How have you been lately, and what's coming up next for you?
Well, it was great to get back home to Charlene Woodlands. I know you know that my other life is as a tree farmer. And,
yes.
Reverence for forestry and the outdoors. So, first order of business was to just be at home and check out the woods and be with my wife, Rosie. And by the way, we celebrated 51 years last summer. Congratulations.
What a beautiful story. You met when you were with the Allman Brothers. She was the receptionist, and you guys fell in love, and you inherited a tree farm from her father. I mean, the story is amazing. Go ahead, though. So your downtime, and I hear you got a PBS America's Force with Chuck Leavell special coming up.
Well, and by the way, it was actually her grandmother that left her a parcel of land, and we've been on it ever since, and we've grown it and just absolutely love what we do here, aside from rock and roll. But anyway, you ask what I've been doing. As you are well aware, we have a documentary called The Tree Man that's been out for a couple of years now, actually. And I've been doing some presentations where we show a 30-minute version, edited version of The Tree Man, and then I take the stage with a moderator to, have questions, and allow me to play certain songs, tell certain stories, and that's a lot of fun. It's a fun presentation. It's a little bit different from just doing a solo gig. I get to expound upon the career, etc. So that's been a lot of fun. I've done a good handful of those since the tour. I've got one, actually, got two of them coming up, one in Baton Rouge and one in upstate New York at Bedford, New York. That's a charity event for Caramore, which is a music program that targets young people and helps them with education and music. And the other is a land trust that exists up there. So, those are fun things to do. I've done a few shows with my full band since the tour. So
yes,
a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but also, again, being outdoors and working in the woods. I love doing that. That
is one of the most beautiful things about you, is you have this passion for forestry. I want to talk to you about that with you here in just a second. Can you stand by? I want to talk to you about that and Tree Man, your new documentary that is a must-see. A must-see that I can't wait to tell folks about and where they can watch it. And there's a story with an airline that's involved in too, apparently. So, Chuck Leavell, can you stand by?
I will. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Chuck Leavell, Rolling Stones keyboardist, 40 years plus, among many other things, rock and roll legend, continues to join us here on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Next. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make that a preset. Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for the Rolling Stones for 40 years plus, has played with Eric Clapton, David Gilmour. He's hung out and had dinner, I think Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken, dinner at George Harrison's house years ago, which is just incredible, these stories you've shared with me over the years. Coming up soon, I'll have a PBS America's Forest with Chuck Leavell project, but right now, what you need to do, if you have children, get his children's book, The Tree Farmer, because that book is gorgeous, it's beautiful for your child. I read it every flipping night to my son, who is now 21. Chuck, we're getting old. We're getting old. I know you're a grandparent as well, which is a beautiful thing. Which I got to talk about that with you too. But I read my young son at the time. It was a tiny little lad, and then my daughter when she was of age, the Tree Farm book for years. And I'm telling you, get that because it's incredible, and it teaches your children about conservation, harvesting the forest, and replanting it, and all these things have. Sorry, I'm taking your spot here. It's your turn to talk. But that and The Tree Man, an unbelievable must-see thing. It's on Amazon, and it's also on Delta. Still, talk to me about Delta and Amazon and The Tree Man.
Well, thanks, Chris. Yes, The Tree Man was available for quite some time on Delta. I think it's recently fallen off, but it'll probably come back on. But it's, again, as you mentioned, on Amazon Prime. It's had such a good run, man. It's been a lot of fun. I've had so many wonderful comments about it, and there's three stories involved. One is my career as a musician. One is my career as a conservationist and environmentalist. And the most important, of course, is a love story between my wife, Rose Lane, and I for over 50 years now. So, it was a lot of fun to make. I have to credit my filmmaker, Alan Forrest. He did an amazing job of making a story out of a lot of raw footage. We had a lot of really nice things said by people like Eric and David Gilmour and all the Stones. It was, very, very heartening for me to have. You could imagine when we made this plan, it was like, oh my God, now I've got to go ask these favors of these people I've worked with to see if they're willing to go on camera.
Yes.
And it was an embarrassing thing. But we worked out a thing between Alan and myself, Alan the filmmaker, where I would, just make the initial ask and then I would get out of the way. And,
right.
That worked very well. Then they could say anything they wanted to about me.
Good or bad?
Good or bad. No, we edited out all the bad stuff.
It was most of the film. I'm just kidding.
No, but it was a joy. And really the main reason for me, and I mean this, was just to have some kind of document for future heirs, for my grandchildren.
Yes.
Mainly, and for up the road. It's just nice to have something like that is going to be around for a long time.
And I want to tell you, people need to see this because you'll be transfixed on this because you're going to hear it's interspersed with Mick and Keith and David flippin' Gilmour from Pink Floyd, my second favorite band after the Stones, and Clapton and so many people. So you get this deep rock and roll legends and story talking about you and their interactions with them in more what do you call it, like a behind the scenes moments. And then you get this beautiful love story you talk about with your wife, which is very special to me. I'm celebrating my 24th year right now. And
congrats.
Thank you, brother. That means everything, and you know it, and I know it. We all need that. So, and then the tree farm and the conservation. It's a beautifully done story. So David Gilmour in there. Where have I been, dude? You played with David Gilmour on a tour where you were in Pompeii, and you filled in, if I can say it that way, for Roger Waters in the lyrics, and you were incredible. How did that come together?
Oh man, it was such an honor. David reached out to me sort of out of the blue. There is a backstory. I'll make it short. In 1984, I was musical director on a live MTV event called Guitar Greats, and David was a part of it. Dickie Betts was a part of it. Link Ray, the famous original guitar riff meister. Lita Ford was on the show. Neil Schon. There was just this litany of guitar players, and that's where I first met David. Well, all these years go by, and Rose Lane is checking the guest book of my website and says, there's a guy here that says he's David Gilmour, and I'm skeptical, of course.
Yes.
But there was an email, and I said, well, I'll email it and see what happens. And sure enough, that resulted in a phone call, and David said, yeah, man, I'm going to do a tour of Europe, and if you're available, I would love to have you. And it just blew my mind. So
yes,
I went over there and started rehearsals in Brighton in England, and we get through all the stuff, his solo stuff, as well as some Pink Floyd material, of course. And we come to the last song, which is Comfortably Numb, and he turns to me and he said, would you like to sing on this? And my first impression was on the choruses, sure, yeah, I'll sing with you. And he said, well, then you take the counterpart. And I was, oh, really?
Wow.
So, and I say this in the documentary, but he gave me a nice piece of advice. He said, when you make your delivery, curl your lip a little bit. Meaning give it a little attitude and give it a little snarl.
Okay, yeah.
And I appreciated that very much. So I did my best to do it justice, and it was just a very flattering and fun thing to do.
It was, Chuck, it was phenomenal. I want everybody to just Google Pink Floyd, Chuck Leavell, Pompeii, 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Okay, and my gosh, are you good? But the band, Pompeii is, remember Live in Pompeii? I'm sure you saw that, like in the 70s they did or whatever it was, or the 60s. It's like, whoa, they're going deep. Going back to Pompeii, and it was an unbelievable moment. What I'm watching on TV, on YouTube or whatever. So I want to talk to you more though. Chuck Leavell, keyboardist, 40 years for the Rolling Stones, and with Gilmour, that's incredible and such. I want to talk to you a little bit more. You've always got great stories from something funny or fascinating behind the scenes with Keith and Mick, and I want to see if you can share something from the past year or two or so since we last talked. Maybe one of each if possible, and then we'll talk about is there going to be another Stones tour or album possible? People can go, are you kidding me? You never know. Can you stand by for a few more minutes with us, sir?
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The great Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for the Rolling Stones, as I mentioned. And you know what I haven't mentioned? It's been a while, but the Allman Brothers. He was with the Allman Brothers, and that's what really launched him into stardom and success in his career. We'll get into that, too. Coming up next is Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3.